Okay, so as I mentioned, in the sheet area, you have all the project structure. Yes, so look for the sheets with English. And here you have the list of drawings, project explanation notes, projects. In here you should explain about your project, site plans, ground floor, wall and column plans, architecture first floor room plan, a ground floor furniture layout plan, also additional plans for project exploitation, sheet schedule. Okay, site plan. So not all the plans are translated maybe to the English version, but in any case, you can see the structure of the plans. The title block is in English, so you can, if you need other language, you can select it from here. English if you're in a language. So also we have all the schedules created for you, so you just modify the project data and you get the final results. Okay, so now I will jump to 3D model. I click the house symbol above and I jump to the 3D model. If I open too much views, it's good practice to close views you don't use and later open additional views. So in here I will select to show the grid lines on level A100. I have additional leftover of the grid here, so I just delete it. And now I will manage my information on my view, so I can nicely start my project from here. So if we jump back to the plenary application, so in here we have tasks we need to do, grid lines, levels, scope boxes, project coordinates, global coordinates, and some referencing lines. So before some tips for preparation. So my recommendation, you should create scope boxes. So these boxes are the box in which you create your design. So I have two scope boxes, one scope box is for building A1, another scope box for building B1. So I will delete one. I just need one scope box for my building. So this scope box is just for building. I can use glass tool to isolate category. And now I have scope boxes. So this scope box is a box in which I have the main building. This scope box represents the project. So it means I have several buildings. If I have more buildings and so on, so I put scope box around all the buildings. And the largest scope box represents the site. So it means all my car parking places, other things are located in the scope box. So now, depending on my project, I can resize the scope box by dragging these lines and make my scope box larger to fit all my project needs. If I activate temporary hide isolate objects, my main window change color on the sides. So I see temporary hide isolate. And I can click glasses and reset temporary hide isolate. Also, I can isolate or hide the scope boxes in my project by using visibility view, visibility graphics. In visibility graphics, I go to annotate categories and go here and look for scope boxes. I uncheck this box and apply, and scope boxes is turned off. Next, element which I would like to speak more about is grid lines. So regarding grid lines, so you also can isolate grid lines. I recommend always use isolate tool to isolate objects you want to work with. And always, if you are working with the object tools and other things, read the information which is in the left side on the bottom. Click to select tab for alternates, control for adds, shift for unselect. So the program always is communicating with you using this line in the bottom part. Now, if I look to the front view of my project, I see my levels. So this level represents the ground level. So it means from the zero of my building, the first floor level, I go down, and this level will be the ground level, the top surface. So ZZ represents general, G general, and -01 represents what this is going down from the zero level, -450. So depending on your project, this number can be different. So this level is for all the site, all the project. So this level should be assigned to the site, scope box site. And you see it automatically change the size based on the scope box. Next levels are representing the building levels. So first I have architecture level. So architecture level, A1 building, so it means A1, the code for the building or the zone of the building. Next part is architecture, the discipline. So the discipline code you can find in Planary. You go to section plan. And in plan section, look for the folders in BIM execution plan. Control find and look for the folder naming. In folder naming, you have this table, which is called Revit disciplines. Yeah, code by ISO standard. So these are codes which represents discipline. So main disciplines in Revit, we have architect, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, structure, and coordination. So here are Revit disciplines, and based on a typical project, we have much more disciplines. So Z, as I mentioned, is for general, for coordination. Structural engineers should use S letter. For architecture, we should use A letter. And for MEP, so for mechanical engineers, M letter. For plumbing engineers, maybe public health engineer, I think plumbing should be here. So I think it's a mistake here. So I will need to update info. And electrical engineer represents letter E, so short name MEP. And this is represents the floor. So if I go up, I put +1, 2, 3. If I go down, I put -1, 2, 3. This represents elevation. And I have special type for this one. So it means I have architecture, name, elevation symbol, white. So it means it has ISO standard text and has ISO standard line type. So regarding line types, so you see specific line type is used here. All the line types are also in our Planary. So in Planary, I extracted standard line types from standard, and each line type is described in this ISO standards. So if you want more data regarding lines, you should go to the information on these standards. And for our grid lines or lines, we use 0, 0.4 line, so long dash dotted narrow line. And more information about how to use this line you can find in these additional standards. So we will use 04.1.2 center lines. So it means for grid lines, we will use this line. How it looks like in the examples. So in this Annex C of this standard, you can see some examples how the grid lines or other lines are used in the projects. And like I mentioned, 04.1 center lines or 04.1.5 modular lines in an axial position. So grid lines and level lines should be represented by this line type. The thickness of line should be followed by the line weight on construction technical drawings. So our line group in most cases is 0.25. So narrow line is 0.13, wide line is 0.25, extra wide line is 0.5. And line weight for graphical symbols is 0.18. So when I will open your drawings and your projects, I will check if all the lines are according to the standards. If not, I will give back your project and you will need to fix all the mistakes. How the line is designed. So here are the explanation. What is the length of the line? What is the structure of the dot? And line type number 04, long dash, dotted line. So this line should be used for center lines. In Revit, we have some maybe limitations. The dot is represented by small dash. I don't know why, but it looks like that. In reality, it's just dashed line on with dots. And additional tips on lines and the thickness of lines. All the thickness of lines in all the drawings, mechanical, architecture, engineering, construction are the same, and they come from hand drawings. And here are the special pencils which represent line thickness. And here you can find instructions how to set line thickness in your projects. All the instructions are provided here. So as I mentioned, in this template, all these settings are set for you, and you can use it in your project. So if you want to see all the head with all the information, you use type with name. If you want to see only the symbol, you select elevation with symbol, and it will represent only elevation. So it depends how you want to represent your levels. Now, next level is structure level. So structure level is below architecture level. So we have the gap which represents the finish layers of the floor. And here we have structural layer. So the difference is we have S representing structure layer and minus 20 millimeters or other distance depending on the project. And structure layer should be used as building story. So building story should be structure layers, not architecture layers. And also structure checkmark should be activated for structure layers. If I select architecture layer, both these checkmarks is empty. And all these levels should be assigned to the main scope box, which represents building A1, or in your case, your building scope box. So each floor should have two levels. One level represents architecture, another structure layer, and additional levels can be created depending on the project needs. So if I have foundation layer, so for foundation, I have structure layer. I don't need architecture layer for foundations. And if I have roof, so for maybe roof representation, I also can have only structure layer or architecture layer. So in this case, I see it's called structure, but I see wrong type is used. So in this case, it should be maybe structure layer for architecture or architecture. Now more details and how it should be done. So we can find in, I think, not in here, Revit settings. And in Revit settings, we have this image. And this image represents how levels should be organized in your project. So I can copy image and place it in our lab work number 1. And as I mentioned, maybe last time, didn't copy the picture. Okay, open in new tab, copy image. Let's go to Teams. Okay, save image to downloads. Okay. So also in this lab work number 1, you should put images or the task names or the task numbers which you selected for your project. Some are working with architecture teacher project, so please put information so I know which kind of project you are working with. If you don't have project tasks, so you can take some examples from the task area. So in folder 02 in Trimble Connect, you can select project examples from here. Or if you work with architecture teacher project, so also put your information inside lab work number 1, so I can see who is working on what project and what are the task information. Okay, so regarding levels, okay, so I explained. So depending how many floors you create levels and make correction on level size. If you double tap on it, so you can just type and change elevation and change the name. So always elevation should be the same number here, should be the same number here. So it represents elevation. So let's restore information and let's hide now the grid lines. So isolate category. So now regarding grid lines. So all the project starts from grid lines, and grid lines should be located in the center of structural components. So it means if you have structural columns, so grid lines should be in the center of structural columns. If you have structural walls, so grid lines should represent structural walls. So now the name of this one is 1. So grid lines go from this point. So this point represents the project base point, the project coordinate system, and the grid lines go from left to right, and the number change from 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Grid line from horizontal position goes up and change from letter A, B, C, D, and goes up. So regarding the style of grid line, I explained. So text style is ISO style, so it's also here. And the specific style is created in the grid lines area. So depending on your project, you just select the line and use copy and just create as many grid lines as you need. Okay, so I saw program is informing me what I need to make a saving of my project. So it's important part and some tips on saving. So if you correctly use template, you should see project as saving option. If you see only the template as saving option, it means you are working in the template. Never work in the template. Template use for project creation. If you want, you can modify template, create your own template, but always work in the project. So if you see the project, you click save. And now I need to assign the correct naming. So I go to the plenary, I go to the file naming instructions, file naming, and in file naming, I select the project name, go to Revit, insert the project name. Now I am working in the cloud, so my model files are in the cloud, so I don't need the last part of my file name. And for my files, I will use 0 to represent teacher file, and I will save this project inside the main work in progress folder. So I have work in progress folder on my cloud. The cloud synchronization, it's important if the file is in the cloud. So during your work, I recommend to pause the cloud so it doesn't crash your program, and we had some problems with our class. If the synchronization is active, it can provide some problems. So during your work day, just put it on the pause and do your work, and later you can reactivate the synchronization to the cloud. Main file will be always this shorter name. This longer name file is representing the backup file. And here I don't see Revit ending, so I should go to the properties, and not in here, but in Windows Explorer, I go to View, Options, View, and activate Hide Extensions. Click OK. And now I should see the Revit file type. So these are the backups. If you damage or lose some data, you can open the backup file. And this is the main working file. Okay, so my name changed back, and I just go back here. Options. In options, you can select maximum backups, so how many backups you want to see. Regenerate views if the views is not up to date. And for thumbnail view, I recommend to use 3D view, which is project view, so which is representing the project view. I click OK, I click save, and my project is saved. And on the top, the name of the project should change from project 1 to the correct project. Okay, so progress is saved. So I restore my view settings, and now I need to modify and check my coordinates. So coordination of a project is done by managing survey point. This is survey point, base point, and internal origin of the project. So internal origin is in all the programs, AutoCAD, Inventor, SolidWorks, any program which has graphical elements has X, Y, Z coordinates and internal origin of any design. So based on Autodesk recommendations, base point and internal origin should always be in cross section of A1, and it should represent the base point of the project. Survey point should represent the point on your property, which is measured by surveyor, and more data, we can go to help and write base point. Base point and survey point. So in this image, you can see base point represents the corner of the building, and survey point represents the corner of the property. So it means surveyor makes measurements of your property. This position is known, and this is your survey point, and the base point is the point for your project. Now, in our project, the survey point coordinates are provided here. So I will make a screenshot of this one. And let's open this image. So here is latitude and longitude. So these coordinates can be used to find the project in the global coordinate system. And these coordinates are representing the Lithuanian coordinate system. So you can see the difference. Here we have large numbers, and all the graphical programs don't like large numbers. So sometimes it can be very problematic. So it's better to work from internal origin point. But in any case, we need to set also the real coordinates so we know in which position we have our building. So now the position of our building, we can check on planary. In the planary, we have coordinates of our project. Control find, coordinates, project coordinates. So these coordinates represents survey point coordinates. This one represents the elevation of base point, and the base point we can select from the map. To simplify your work, because now we are doing mixed projects, somebody is doing large buildings, office buildings, and so on. So to simplify this task, for each student, we will use one base point. So now I will show how to find the base point and which base point I will recommend to use for your project. So now I can check if my coordinates in my survey point is in correct position. So here I go and check it out. So Y represents north-south, and X represents east-west. So it means in the programs like AutoCAD or other programs, it's switched these objects. So XY is switched, and in Revit I see north-south on the top. On CAD programs, it will represent Y, it will be below. So it's important not to make mistake. And also measurement units. So in CAD surveyor programs, they measure in meters. In Revit application, we measure in millimeters. So let's see, 60517, 60517. This number is okay. Check. Another number, 5682, 5682. So this one is checked. Now the last number is the elevation. So this number is a little bit not correct. If I put the point here and make some mathematical elevation, so it can be 154, but in this case the number should be exact. So it means in my template file, I select survey point, activate this one, and in here I write 4 and type meters, and program will automatically recalculate to millimeters. And I put the clip here back, and now my coordinates is in correct position. Now, how to find the coordinates based on surveyor data. So I open Civil 3D application, and from Civil 3D, I will select one position, which will represent the base point of our project. And I will show how to make changes to this project so you can get nice orientation of your projects. So I think last classes I showed some tips on this task, but now I just will show how to do for final base point orientation. So all topographical files are located in documentation folder 0104. So here we have two topographical files. One is 2D, another is 3D. So 3D will use to create a top surface in Revit, or 2D is just to know the position of your base point. So I downloaded these files and put it inside my project folder. In project folder, lab work number 1. So these files are located here. And I would like to have them. Okay. So in Civil 3D, so Civil 3D is simple AutoCAD, just with additional features, specially designed for roads and bridges and so on. So I click Start and select I will need land and site development, so for my project. And from here, for students, maybe for young engineers, I recommend to use Drafter, Technician, or after you finish the specific studies, you can select another discipline like site engineer, urban planner, geotechnical engineer, and so on. Me, I will select BIM manager and click submit, and it will tweak a little bit my settings here. So now I click new, not new, sorry, not new, just select open. Open. And in open, I just go to my project. Projects, work in progress folder. And I also can put folder in here, so I can easily jump in this folder and access my documents. So for my example, I will use lab work number 2. And of course, I need to use resume synchronization and use this one. Now it opens. Yes. So if the surveyor provided you correct data with all the needed information for your design, if you open the CAD file in any AutoCAD application, you should see blue geolocation box here. And this box represents geolocation of your project. And if you turn on the maps, you should see the map information of your project. And it automatically connects to Microsoft Bing Maps and shows you the location of your project. Also, you can make clipping and clip it. So it's similar like we had in Format. In Format, it grabs information. So the same is done here. Also, it grabs information. So now In other classes with students, we did small house projects with a property site of 30 meters. And we used the base point located like you see symbols representing here. Now, because your projects are mixed and you have large buildings, office buildings, and so on, so we will choose one survey point, one base point. So survey point for all the students will be the same. So the survey point is located here. And the coordinates should be the same like in my Revit application. So I see the numbers are exactly the same. Because I am working on 2D plan, I don't have a Z coordinate. So Z coordinate in this plan is not provided. So the base point of our projects, I think we can use maybe this one. So 0, 3, 23. And this coordinate should be used for our base point. So it means I can delete all other properties and use this property, make the size of this box larger and provide place for your large office building design. So in this location, let's say you can make your office building. How many meters do you have in length? 75 meters. How much?
For building or site?
Yeah, building the
It
site.
depends.
It's maybe 50, maybe 70.
Okay, let's check if I guess what is this distance here. 140 meters. So I think the size of this land will be enough to make design. And yeah, so base point. Okay, so let's choose this one. In your projects, you can do modifications of car parking enter and so on. You can choose maybe this road, or you can design another road depending on your needs. So, okay, so this will be our location. I will make print screen. And put it in lab work number 1. And of course, to not make the mistake, okay, you can open this point in your CAD application and copy the numbers to your needs. Okay, so I will copy these numbers to Notepad++. I recommend to use Notepad++ because it has more features like always on top comparing to simple Notepad. And it also has some specific encodings, programming languages, C++ and so on, so it can show the code. So this application is very, very powerful and can provide easy access to temporary data. And the elevation, 155 meters. So if I go to the planary, so in here, base point elevation is 155 for all the projects. So Okay, depending on your projects, if the teacher provided elevation from the sea level, so you can use the project elevation. If you don't have this number, so you can use this one. Now, how to set all this information in my main program. So now my base point, if I compare the numbers, are completely in different situation. So it means I need to relocate my project. So for relocation, I will hide all elements, temporary hide elements, and leave only internal origin. I go to manage. So in my project template, location is set as it is prepared for our projects. It's GIS coordinate system of Lithuania, and we have specific location prepared for you. So now I just need to relocate the project. So I click specify coordinates at point. I move it here and enter the coordinates. And be careful, because when you enter the coordinates, you need to use specific units. So in here, I enter information in meters. So in the end of the coordinates, I put M letter, represent meters. And in here, 155 meters. Now, depending on your project orientation, you have a specific angle for your project rotation. So in my example, I will use 0, but in your projects, you need to specify a specific project north to true north rotation angle. So it depends on your project location. And let's click OK. And now I just restore the hidden objects, and I see my project location changed. Now it's in this location, and my survey point is constant. It stays in the same place. So it means my project can jump around my survey point, and I can have it in a nice position. In some projects, I always see what the architects or engineers or students move the base point like that. So it means the internal origin is located here, base point is located here, and let's say survey point is here. So in this case, we can get some issues, problems by calculating some coordinates, and sometimes it gives a lot of problems in real projects. So these two objects should be sticking in the same place. Now, how to organize and how to see these elements like survey point, base point, and internal origin. So for view objects, you go to view section. So these are graphical elements. So you go to graphics and select visibility graphics. In visibility graphics, you choose site. You can type S letter and it jumps to S section, and inside you should check internal origin. If you want to see internal origin, by default these are turned off. Also project base point and survey point. So all these three objects represent coordinates. So this one will represent global coordinates, and these two objects represent coordinates of your project. And if I select grid lines and levels, so you can see grid lines and levels divide my project into horizontal and vertical planes, and in these section planes, I create my project. If I look to the project from the top, I can see the plans. If I look from the front, I see the facades. If I make a cross section, I can see sections of my project. I see view from the right, so it means the eastern facade, north facade, so from the back and so on. So it's important to set up all these settings before you start your project. So now if we jump back in the plenary, so I give you additional details regarding grid lines, grids, and the standards which you should follow for grid lines. I explain how to name the levels and which types of levels you should choose for which purpose. And spoke a little bit about scope box and boundaries. So if I go back to the scope box, so I can type a simple V letter double tap and it jumps to visibility graphics. And if I go to scope box here, so let's say my building is the size of, I create a copy and type here 75 meters. And the program will ask, I see what the grid line is outside the scope box. Would you like to dissociate it? So I don't have any other options like modify or do something. So in this case, I click dissociate. So it means I have my building here. So it means I need to extend my scope box to represent the real situation of my building. So let's say in the next position, I have 45 meters. I have the same issue. And my scope box should be extended. So I extend my scope box and it automatically clips the grid lines. Now I can reassociate my grid lines. So I select grid lines and click scope box and select my main building scope box. And now grid lines are nicely designed by my scope box. Next scope box, which represents all buildings inside your project. So let's say I have maybe some additional support buildings or something like that. So I can extend my building. So maybe this is my main building and I have entrance car parking like ramp or something like that. So I need additional space. And the last one represents the site. So it means I have car parking places and other objects, so I can extend it to the size of my project. So from the top view, I modify my scope boxes, and also I need to do the same from the front view. So if I have my elevation here, I can, let's say for now, delete this one, and I can copy paste elevations up. So I can use array tool and let's say my building floor here is 3 meters. And I can say I need, let's say 10 floors and I create 10. And of course, I need to reassociate the scope box and also make it all other scope boxes also based on my project. And also I should make some additional floors down to represent my car parking. So I can also use array tool and create array for floors down. So I will have 2 underground floors for my car parking. So I put and reassociate the scope box. So my side scope box, I'm not sure, maybe it can not go down underground. So it depends. You can decide depending on the drawings and so on. So now I have 2 floors below the ground, and also I need additional structure floor, which represents foundation top level. So in most cases, this is located from my architecture floor about 100 millimeters down. So this represents the top of my foundation caps or other elements. So now I have all these levels. I can select levels by just dragging, and I can filter if I selected too much objects, so I can filter out like levels and say I need to assign these levels to my scope box. So it means my main building, A1. And now all the levels are assigned to my scope box. And if I change my scope box size, it will automatically update my elevations and levels. And scope box, if you assign scope box, it will nicely crop your views and sheets, and you will have nice representation of your project. Okay, so project global coordinates, so I explained, and project coordinates explained. Now we have additional lines which can improve your design. So these lines are called reference planes and match lines. So if your building is very large and you want to place it in several drawings, you should use match lines. So how to use it? Let's go to the site plan, the work in progress. So I have site plan work in progress, and in here I can draw the match line. So if I check this instructions in the help area, so you can see if you have a strange geometry building or a large building and you want to divide this building into smaller parts and represent them on different drawings or different plans. So you create match line and put the drawings in different location and different position. So if I look here, so it means if I want to put the drawing on the same sheet and my page is A4 format and I want to place additional parts, so I can just create match line. For design purpose, you can use a reference plane. So reference plane, it's similar like grid line or level line. It creates temporary line, which is in green color, and you can use it as a referencing line, as grid line or level line, and you can assign objects to these lines. And these lines will not be printed in your drawings, but these lines can help you very much on your project designs. Also, as modeling lines, you can choose model lines. So model lines is a simple line from the line list. It's called line, and it also has a line color green. So green in Revit represents objects which are for design and should not be printed. And in here I have a notation what this object or line is not visible in this view. So I can go to view, visibility graphics, and go to the lines, and check if the line is activated. So I just activate the lines here. And now this line is located in my 2D drawing. And if you draw the line from the modeling lines in architecture drawing, you can see the same line in 3D view. So I can select box and it will automatically crop and show the same line in my project. So the line is here in 3D view. So with modeling lines, you can create nice simplified version of your model, and later you can join or use this line as reference line to draw all other objects. Okay, so let's recrop. And in 3D view, if I select scope box, I can click this nice tool, selection box. Short command is BX, So I can tap on the keyboard BX and it should nicely create section box around my buildings. And other scope boxes is not needed, so I can hide it as a category in my view. Don't use hide elements in your view, because if you hide elements in your view, it will be hard to manage these elements. You will need to activate the light symbol here to reveal hidden elements. And sometimes students hide objects and they is thinking the object is not here, so they start to create new objects, and in the same place we have a lot of similar objects. So instead hiding elements, you should use visibility graphics and use the categories, or other option, use filters to filter out objects you don't need. But in any case, we have this option, so in some situations we can use and just hide some elements if it's done by purpose. Okay, so match lines, reference lines, okay. And next topic, more details on spaces, massing areas, rooms, and zones. So now let's see how to create these objects in your project and what is the purpose of these objects. So now I will close Civil 3D. And I go back to the Revit application, save the progress. And before jumping to specific tools, so additional tools to create the same things what we did in format application is presented in mass and site. In next week, we will start to use top surface and subregions, property lines, and all other tools like site components, parking components, and so on. So today I will speak more about massing tools, how to use massing tools to represent your building. And later from the massing tools, we can convert the building into roof, floors, walls, and curtain systems. So my task is to show each tool, what you can do with these tools and how you can implement it into your design. So like I mentioned, Revit is creating backup files, and if your cloud application is on synchronizing, and it will always give you this notification. So in this case, I need to put it on pause, so I don't have these notifications. Okay, so before we start with massing tools, I can jump and try to use information from my format project. So I will link format project, click link, go to LabWorks and select format file. And from here, I will need to check which one is the latest one. So phase A is the latest one. So I will link it by origin to internal origin, or I can try to link it by shared coordinates, so it jumps nicely in exact position. Also, I will use elevation of general, so it represents my level of my top surface. And like other settings, dimensions will be detected automatically. So depending on import settings, so if you have nice coordinates, so you can try coordinates by coordinates. If you just want to import inside your main location origin, so use origin to internal origin. Okay, I click open, fail to import file format. Okay. Let's try one more time. Okay, let's reactivate here and let's make these files always keep on this device. Okay, files downloaded. I can put it into the pause mode and try one more time by share coordinates, open. My project jumped and I think I got some information which explained what my project is maybe not in shared coordinate mode, so I cannot put it in shared coordinates. So in any case, if I put realistic, I will see the information what is provided in format. So I will see all the texture files. I see the ground representation. I see my building. I see the pavement, the fence, inside elements on my building, and so on. Car representation, trees, and. So if I don't want to see the site map or site image, I just go to View, Visibility Graphics, select Imported Categories, and from here I should select my format file, and in here I select Satellite Image Layer, and I turn it off. So it's like in AutoCAD, we have layers here, and now my project is in needed position without extra stuff. And I will relocate the project. I will click move, and I move my project. So this corner is in my base point position. So I click top and I move it to my base position. So I see it's on the correct elevation and in correct position. Now I can start my modification of the building. I can select my format object. I can make cross section of it by creating cut out the roof part, and I see objects inside in my format application. So now my walls is just from one layer. Of course, it's not realistic, so I need to create real walls. And as I mentioned, grid lines should be in the center line of your bearing walls. And so you should also check this part is quite important. So for better performance, I should use consistent colors. So my building should be in this mode, so I can have better speed and so on and do the modeling part. And if I want to update my building, so let's say my format design is not correct because I have the building which size is much larger comparing to my design. So in this case, I should click Save. I select Format and click Edit and Format. Format for Windows is required. Install Format and try again. Yes, so for this direct integration, I need a desktop version of Format. And in this case, if it is in my machine, I can just directly jump to format, do the corrections of my design, and go back, and I will see my updated concept project. Also, I can click this button in the massing inside and do the sketching of format from outside the Revit application. So it means what we did like in format web application. So you can do it inside Revit, clicking 3D sketch. You sketch the shape or concept of your design. You go back in Revit and you can continue on creating roof, walls, floors, curtain systems. So now in our project, I will put an example from the tasks which are provided in Jimbo Connect. So for this task, I downloaded this task example. So here we have some plans for our project. Let's say, and I will try to use maybe this one to simulate this example. So in Revit, I can go to my situation plan, work in progress, click insert, click link PDF. I select PDF file, I click open. I select the sheet which I will use in my project. I click on large DPI, so the resolution is quite good, and I click open. And now I can place the drawing on my project. So if I want to see it transparently, so I click wireframe, so I can see through the drawing. And of course, I think my format and drawing is giving me additional problems, so I can turn off imported objects like format, and now my view is better. So here I can see I have 8 meters in this location. So I activate snapping, use scale tool, and say from this point to this point, it should be 8 meters. And the program rescales my project. Now the size of my PDF file is the size I need, and I can move A1 to the needed position. So it grabs the cross part, crossing, and I just click it on here. And from here I can create my grid lines and other components. So it means I can do the same with AutoCAD file, PDF file, or other type of files. And I should use pin so I don't accidentally move this one. And I just select my grid lines and click copy and say it should be 8 meters, 8 meters, 8 meters. If you snap directly to the PDF file, you can get maybe not so precise measurements. If I just copy and snap to the PDF file, so if I select my grid line and activate dimensions, you can see it's 8 meters, 0.4 millimeters. So in this case, it should end by 0, 0. So it's important to have a nice representation, or just retype all the numbers so you get the nice information. And here, copy. So 1 meter, 0.8 meters, 8.10 meters. Okay, dimension 4.75. 4.75 meters. 8.05 meters. And 0.55 meters. Now, if I put annotation and put dimensions and continue putting dimensions. So you see all the dimensions descending by 0. So it means it's easy to create measurement on the building site if your dimensions ends by 0. You should avoid dimensions ending by, let's say, 1, like this one, 49, something like that. The tolerance, I think 5 or 0, it's okay. If it ends by 5, it's maybe okay. But the best solution if it ends by 0 millimeters, and you have nice 0, and it's easy to create these dimensions on the building side. So now I have some rooms and my building design. So now I will create additional mass objects which will represent my project. So I will delete this part, not delete, but turn off the category. These objects, what we can see here is the facade representation or elevation. So now I will hide my category. And I move these elevation symbols. I especially should select it not like that, but select as all object and move it to represent my building, outside of my building, like this one. And it's best to put it in the middle of the project. And okay, and here it should be B, C, D, E, and so on. And here we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And important part is if I click on the triangle, this line represents the location of my section. So in this case, I would like to see this line inside this location. So it cuts and is inside the scope box. So if it's not in the scope box, I will not see all the grid lines and other components, because if the object is not cutting grid line or elevation, it will not be represented. So look what will happen. So let's go to elevation view. So in elevation view, now I have assigned view template. So I will turn off view template. I will turn off scope box of this view. I will turn off croppings. So this view will be for my work in progress, maybe. Okay, so maybe it's better to expand selected, and let's make this one for work in progress. Work in progress. Yeah, so for this one, let's select the template. So the template should be architecture elevations. So template should be placed on this one, and work in progress. Also, I go to view and click visibility graphics, select all the disciplines, select all categories, expand, select one more time, double tap on the object, and I will see all the model categories. I do the same with annotations, expand, select all, double tap, apply, I will see annotation categories. And if I create analytical models, I should do the same here. Select all, expand, double tap, and click apply. And now I should see all the information in my project. So here I don't see any levels, grids, and other objects. I just see format project in facade view. So if I want to see it on my view, so let's zoom out and look what will happen if I change position of this line and I move this line to this location. And now I see all the design. So it means my blue line is crossing the grid lines and crossing scope box, and now this line is representing nicely. Why I don't see grid lines if I move my line here? It looks like it is crossing the grid lines, but the grid lines is crossing just in the view. So it means the view is 2D view, so it means the real representation of grid line is located in here. So I have 3D representation of grid line here, and this one is 2D representation, only specific for the view. So it means it cannot be shown in the 3D view because it's not real representation. So I need to move the blue line here to see all the levels, grid lines nicely cut out. Okay, so after the break, in the next class, we will continue and I will speak how to use mass tools and how to create building representation of our project. So I will save it, click save, and we should not forget to deactivate the synchronization. So after I go back to another class, I have all the data synchronized. Don't forget to stop the watch if you forget to start it. So just enter manually the hours